And welcome back, everybody, to the Fandom Zone. It is I, Mr. General Zod, for another informative night of great news on, telling you the real deal, true stories, unlike the shill media, who doesn't like to report any facts or any truth, or when they report the truth, they don't like to put logic in it. So, welcome everybody. We're doing part two. As I said, we were going to cover this Kyle Rittenhouse thing as it unfolded, as it developed. When I did this first part of the segment, we were just kind of getting into everything that he did, how we felt about it. We waved your guys' comments in. It was one of my highest rated shows. So now we're getting into the court trial, which is looking to be as ridiculous as this whole entire, even just this this kid being held for anything is ridiculous within itself. But I'm going to get more into that. As always, I would like to welcome yours truly's father and the news aficionado of the channel. Probably the most reputable source I have here in the Fandom Zone. Welcome, Bigley. How are you doing tonight?
Good, thank you. Uh,
So
So,
let me just
I'm sorry.
set this up first before you get into anything. Let me just kind of preference anything for those people living under a rock who don't know the story. Kyle Rittenhouse was this kid during the riots. He was defending his hometown.
In
These
Kenosha,
three
the riots in Kenosha.
Kenosha. Yeah. If you guys don't know, that's actually in my neck of the woods. And he defended himself against three people who attacked him. He wounded the two of them, right? And then the third one, he
No,
shot the
one.
elbow off of.
No, he
All
killed
right, so
two. He
he
killed
killed
two and
two.
wounded a third.
I always try to downplay that. He killed two. He wounded the third guy was lucky, if you want to call it that. But yeah, he killed two people. In my mind, and in a lot of people's minds, it was justified. But there's been a debate about this, and now we're getting into the point where we're getting into the trial phase of this. And here is, if you're on my channel, you've heard me talk about this. Here is where we're going to get the back and forth, the media hype machine, all sorts of rumors and innuendos, and just shit that probably isn't true. That's not factual. Why don't Big Lee now tell us some of the stuff that's going on? Bring us up to speed for the people who haven't been following it as closely as you have been.
Okay, well, first of all, he came to court yesterday, 2 days ago, and he has no bail. He's staying at a juvenile facility, but he's staying in 24-hour lockup for his own protection. So that's just as bad as jail. And right now he's not getting any bail. And the prosecutor from Wisconsin, from Kenosha, has charged him with two accounts of murder and purposeful murder, and several other counts of small stuff like having an illegal firearm and a bunch of stuff. First of all, let's get one thing straight. This kid made some stupid mistakes, but none of the mistakes that he made should have been mistakes that would put him in prison. Because let's talk about the people. Can you get that up on the screen? That uh, Shirley.
All right, hold on a second. Oh wait, it's not here. I gotta wait for it to appear.
Wait.
Uh,
Okay, 1 second. There it is. Okay,
before
it should wait.
Now before that though, let me just ask you, while you're pulling everything up, what, why is this so serious? Like, what do these charges hold as far as how much jail time this kid can do? Because these are pretty serious charges.
Oh, like
The
like
two,
life charge.
So we're talking about this kid going to jail for life, basically. So yeah, so we're talking about that he could basically be facing a life sentence.
Yes. Actually, he's a couple life sentences. And you know what? I can't really share that with you right now. I can't even get this thing down. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. So, let's just basically go over a couple things. First of all, everybody involved with this, except the kid that did the shooting, except for Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay. The first, this whole thing started from the guy Blake, the African American that was shot. And at the time that he was shot, they were serving a warrant on him for third degree sexual assault, trespassing, disorderly conduct in connection with domestic abuse. And he had a arrest warrant that was issued for him on July 6th. And at that time, they were going to execute the arrest warrant. And then it escalated, and the police kept telling him not to go to the car. There were three children in the car. And it wasn't even his car. He took the keys from the person that he went to see. And so he was heading toward the car. And when he was heading toward the car, he would not stop. So the police did not know why he would not stop. So you had three kids in the car and this guy going into the car. And they claimed they tased him. And that will come out in court, the evidence. And they wound up shooting him several times in the back as he was going into the car. And the police are saying because there were three kids in the back seat and they didn't know what he was doing, whether he was going to take off with the kids, and they were his kids, but he shouldn't have been there in the first place. And I'm not going to say the cops didn't overreact because they may have, and it's not my decision to know what happened there because only they know what really happened, and I'm sure that will all come out in court. And so the next three people involved that was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse. The first guy that was shot, Joseph Rosenbaum, he did a 12-year stint in prison for sexual assault on a minor. He also had several felonies. And then the second guy that was shot, his name was Anthony Huber. And Anthony Huber had a record of dangerous weapon, domestic abuse, strangulation, and suffocation in a domestic abuse case. It was his girlfriend that he strangled and suffocated her. And he also had batteries. And in that case, he got two felonies, two misdemeanors, and they dropped the third felony. So, to get two felonies and two misdemeanors in one case is a very serious thing. You can still hear me okay, right, Lee?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Welcome, Fights the Zombies. Good to see you, Ola. Yeah. This is this
Well,
feels.
and one before you go on, one more person, the third guy that was involved that lived, he blew his elbow off. Now he's being treated by the press like a hero, and he has felon. He's a felon too, and his is the same thing, domestic abuse. I mean, these guys that attacked him, all three of them were very bad dudes. And now there's these false reports coming out that Kyle Rittenberg was on video beating somebody, and it's not him. It's a fake report. And also, there's a report that he illegally his mother. They had a report that his mother was there and took him home. His mother was not there, like was originally reported. So there was a lot of things coming out now, and where they're making up a lot of lies uh, about Rittenhouse which is kind of unfair. And the press is calling him a white supremacist. And the kid never had any inclination about being a white supremacist. He didn't associate with any white supremacists. He was just a kid that was kind of gung ho. And from that point on. Okay, now if you want to, what was that, Lee?
So basically, what I'm hearing is the same thing that I hear a lot is that the media, being the infinitely smart, because we're all stupid. The elitist media is the smartest, they're the brightest. So basically, they have been reporting false facts. That doesn't shock me because I've seen it a ton of times in stuff unrelated to this. It does not surprise me because here's the thing: if they have to acknowledge that this kid who clearly supports guns and everything defended his town, and they have to
No, it
put
wasn't
the
his. That's
BLM.
the problem. Hold up. That's the problem. That it wasn't his town. He came in. He lived 20 minutes away over the border. But people that know the Wisconsin area know that Kenosha is right on the border with Illinois. It's very close, and a lot of people time because these small towns on the border are split right in half by the border. So it's very common for people to go over the border. This kid also, his mother was divorced and his father worked in the Wisconsin. So he used to always go into the Wisconsin area to see his father.
So it's safe to say he was, whether you're on one side of the border or not, he was still defending the area from these BLM activists. And for the media to acknowledge that this kid was defending and helping people, at least in my mind, they would have to signify that what they were doing at the time was wrong. And no one in the media seems to want to even approach the stories on BLM. So I think that's another reason for running this smear campaign. Now, as far as the lawyers and stuff goes, does Kyle have a lawyer?
A matter of fact, they went to put up a GoFundMe page for him, and GoFundMe shut it down and said no, because he's a killer, he cannot have a page. Now, lots of people that have cases on them haven't been convicted have pages on GoFundMe. So what they did is they shut the page down. But what happened? An organization called Fight Back Foundation opened up a page for him, and they've collected $1.8 million. And there's another page called Give, Send, and Go. Their goal was $500,000, and now they've collected over $500,000. So right now, in the last couple of weeks, they've collected over 2.3 million. And it's growing every day. They're saying there's 40 to 50 pretty large donations made to him and to his lawyers every day.
Wow, that is impressive, and the fact that people, for any of these funds, and I've seen them on both ends. I've seen the ones that, at least in my mind, are giant scams, and the ones that are like the ones for Kyle that are legitimately helping people out. When you have that many people giving, clearly you can get an idea of where the people sit on this issue. And, I got a lot of comments. So anyone who watches this or will rewatch this later, definitely leave a comment and let me know what you think about this. But anyways, getting back to it, let me just ask you, we've seen a lot of court cases. I know you watch a lot. I was actually lucky enough to live in the era of the OJ case, and you couldn't turn on a TV without getting an update on what was going on there. So, I mean, here's the thing that I struggle with. What kind of defense do you think that they're going to put up to accuse him of these charges? Like, I can see them getting the gun charge, but
Yeah,
murder,
he's going to get.
that's going to be a hard sell.
it's going to be impossible to sell. Here's what it is. It's a liberal Democratic guy that's the prosecutor putting these charges down. And he has to know that he can't win this case. But he's afraid not to prosecute it because then he's going to be called a racist and all that stuff. And so a couple stations like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, they showed the real video from the beginning to the end. They showed him being attacked and everything. And none of the other stations will show it. And this is what's wrong. This kid has gotten caught up in a presidential election. He's gotten caught up in being involved in it because of politics. So politics is basically controlling this whole thing when it comes to this kid right now. And it's kind of a shame because if this was any other time and this all happened, sure, he would get some charges, but he'd be out on his own reconnaissance most likely because he has no criminal record. And while these other three guys were all violent felons, they were basically scumbags. You can't put it any other way. And oh, right. See right there, it says Joseph Rosenblum, 36, served 12 years in prison for sexual offense against a minor. Anthony Uber found guilty of multiple violent offenses, including strangulation. And Gage, this is the one that lived. They're treating him like a hero now. Grosskreutz, convicted of burglary and weapon charges. And you can put that down now. But so those right there in black and white are the charges that these guys have been hit with. So there's some pretty bad eggs. I mean, just think about it. The guy that hit him with the board. You have MSNBC and CNN turning him out to be like a hero because they said, oh, he was trying to get the gun away from him, and that's why he used the board to hit him. But can you imagine that this guy had a fight with his girlfriend, strangled her, suffocated her, and then she came back to life after he choked her out, and then he was hit with 2 felonies for what he did. And 2 misdemeanors, and they dropped the 3rd felony. Could you imagine that those were the charges against this guy? And the media, who always say, "Oh, this is the me now time. Let's protect the women." So this guy, it's okay that he choked out his girlfriend, or it's okay that the first guy that he shot was a child molester, plain, regular child molester. You do not go to jail for 12 years for child molestation. So I don't know inside the case what it was because a lot of those files get sealed.
Yeah.
But just think 12 years. So that is a serious thing. That means it's most likely a minor, like a very young minor. So,
and you don't know because, like you said, the case sealed. You don't know if it was a boy or a girl, or I mean, anyway, it's terrible no matter which one it was. But I mean, that's a pretty big to get hit with a charge like that. That's a pretty big thing. Now, from watching the court cases you've watched and historically seeing, and then now we got to put in the X factor, which is the political lean on this. The one of the good things about Corona is that a lot of this stuff is not oversaturated as it was. I think this would be a case that if we had regular scheduled programming, you would see the trial broadcast like OJ every 5 minutes. But there's still, like you said, the news channels that are running their spin, their special little take on everything. What up, all out of Bubblegum? Good to see you here. Let me just ask.
And Bubblegum just said she made a good point. There's a special place in hell for those guys.
Yeah. And, thanks for keeping it PG.
Bianca knew the names Rosenbaum, Huber, and Grosskreutz. And so people are very familiar with these guys. And
Yeah,
anybody,
it's all
yeah,
over the internet.
yeah, and it's good. And anybody that knows, that watched the video from the beginning to the end, they know, what happened. You got to be an idiot not to happen. And the people that are, even people that have seen this is about people who hate Trump. Okay, and there's tons of people that hate him. So you're going to hate somebody so bad that you're going to deny the truth about exactly what happened. That's
Yeah,
pretty sad.
this kid, like you said, this kid is a victim of the political climate that we're in, and we're finding that this is not the only time. You're seeing it every single day in everything that we do. What's up, Stone Cold Jeremy? Good to see you on this gorgeous Saturday night, at least for me. Yeah, it's really crazy uh that you see that in our political climate right now, people are getting
Yes,
caught up
and
in these situations.
all out of bubblegum made a very good. Kyle was there helping protesters early. Yes, he was, and there's lots of evidence of that. A matter of fact, him and a group of guys that were with him were cleaning up the we're cleaning up the walls and stuff that were all sprayed paint the night before. And so just to clear something up, there's some pictures that came out of a woman, a heavy set woman holding a gun, and they said that she was there with him. His mother wasn't there. That it was fake. It was made up. But half the people believe it. So
Oh
or that
yeah, you read the comments I had on this earlier. There were a bunch of people stating the stuff that now is coming out fake, but this is nothing new. This is what the news does now. They're nothing but a gossip column and gossip rags. But let me ask you something. Uh, as far as Kyle's defense goes, right? We all know the videos are out there, they're on the internet, whatever, but will that be admissible in a court case? Because we've seen some
oh
judges
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
throughout throughout time. Sometimes they allow that stuff. Sometimes they don't. Do you
No, they
see that
have
as
to
being key?
if it's part of the defense that can prove him innocent. Oh, for sure, it will be allowed. And right now, his lawyer is fighting extradition, which is unusual. He wants to keep him in Illinois, and because he doesn't feel like Kyle can go to Kenosha and get a fair trial because of the lies made up through everything and being a. But I can guarantee you, every police officer there, like the big thing now is when Kyle was walking away from the scene, the police seen him with the gun and they let him keep going. They didn't stop him. Several police officers,
I
and
mean,
they.
I was meaning to ask you about that point too, because he was actually in Kenosha and defending and helping them out. What I mean, would his trial actually would that benefit him to be able to be call witnesses from there who could verify exactly what's going on? Because you gotta figure the defense is going to want to call people who were there. There were a lot of people there who saw everything that went down, and I'm sure they would have no problem
No, the people that seen
testifying in
everything.
open court.
No, yeah, but they were, a lot of them were dirtbag friends of these guys.
Well, I mean, you
You
had some
remember he was being
people.
chased. He was being chased by like 20 people. It was
I
just
mean,
these
but
three.
there were also people in that video that were not part of the group. There were some people on that other side, and like you said, they could also deposition some of the officers
and,
there
and
as well.
they probably depositioned some of those people just going to tell the truth because they know that it's a crime to lie. And during it, once they're questioned. Yeah, if you really think about it, these guys that were there that call themselves BLM and they weren't BLM, they were there just looking to cause some trouble. And if you look at this the city in general, did you just put that back up, Lee? Okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry. It came in, it came in on my thing. I thought it was something else.
well, that's okay. So if you think about what they did, I'm trying to get you this other picture right here. Okay, give me 1 minute here. Okay, I'll wait. Okay, so these guys were there and they had very bad records. So the odds are, and all of them were on probation recently or currently on probation. But the one thing that I didn't really like, that I thought was kind of sneaky, when I checked the records last month for this guy that was killed, Joseph or Rosenbaum, the first guy that was killed, all his records were open. He had some stuff that was still open. And then when I checked CCAP recently, his cases were all closed.
That's
So that,
interesting.
yeah, it's like they closed the cases. They're not supposed to close them. If they're open, they're supposed to stay open. It's like these prosecutors rushed to close the cases on him. Like they didn't want his stuff out there. And so some stuff is missing because I remember when I looked on it last month, there was a lot more stuff, and now it's not there. So the
Yeah,
prosec yeah,
that sounds very suspicious. And just for a second, I want to read a very interesting comment here from Stone Cold Jeremy, who says, "Just gonna say, Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have been out there in the sense that the cops were doing their job. Regular citizens wouldn't have to take up the slack to defend their communities." I think he has a pretty good point there. Um, a lot of these, a lot of people, and we talked about this before in our BLM protest, show. A lot of these communities, the people are having to stand up and say something instead of our law enforcement, or like you were saying before, just calling in the military to squash this. And it's all been a giant political game. And I do agree with some points that Stone Cold made. We need the people who are paid to defend us, and even the governors and the state officials and all these people who are just letting us go. They
the
should be the
people,
ones
yeah, but the people
forcing
being paid,
action.
the cops that are being paid are having their hands tied by some geeks, like by
Yeah.
mayors and governors, and they're tying the cops' hands. The cops could easily squash this if the
Oh, without a
mayors looked.
doubt.
Yeah, if the mayors looked at the cops and said, "Squash this now," they could squash it. They could
And
squash it easy.
and
And
I
and
think
and
that's Stone Cold Jeremy's point, is that someone like Kyle shouldn't have to be dragged through this and have to defend himself in court for doing something that our paid officials and or our police force
but remember,
should
let's
be able to
remember.
handle.
Yeah, but let's remember what he was doing. He went there. He had a gun, which was wrong. Okay, but remember why he went there. He went there to help. He was even helping protesters. So you can't, you got to watch when you really say that because he didn't go there looking to shoot somebody. He went there to help volunteer. He was handing out water. He was even trying to help people. He had training for a year with EMS, even though he had no certificates or nothing. He was trained in it, so he was there helping even the protesters. It's not like he was defending one side. There's videos of him actually going to the roads and saying to them, "Do you need some help?" There's lots of videos
No,
of him.
no. My whole point is not questioning that he wasn't there, because we've seen the other end. To be fair, we've seen peaceful protest and the people out there just protesting how you should, and in response, people organizing, cleaning up, just like any other rally will say. But in this case, um like everyone was saying in the comments, and like you just stated earlier, the cops hands are tied. I'm saying there wouldn't be a need for someone like Kyle or any other citizen to have to be chased and then defend themselves if the hands of the officers weren't tied, or if cops weren't scared that if they do act on something, that they're going to be on the news, or they're going to be called this and called that, and with everything else going with police officers. We still have that going on too. So now you got officers that aren't going to be willing to make that leap because they don't want to be on, the 9 o'clock news.
And
Saying,
here's what the shame part is. We all know some creepy cops that go over the line. I've known them, as you've known. I've had trouble with the law, and I've known them. I've dealt with a few of them that were very bad dudes. They were badge heavy and they were creeps. But here's what we have to remember: that most of these guys are decent guys, and everything that's in the news lately, including Breonna Taylor, who they're trying to make into a saint, is all lies. Now, Breonna Taylor, are you familiar with that case, Lee?
no.
Okay, Breonna Taylor, right now, right now in Lexington, Kentucky, they're having riots and stuff going on, and Breonna Taylor's 3 cops went to her house with a warrant. And it was a knock. It was a no knock warrant, but they knocked anyway. And then when they opened up the door, her boyfriend was standing next to her at the end of the hallway in a stance and he blasted at the cops. So the cops fired and killed the woman, shot her 6 times. And so the cops were found innocent 2 days ago. And one cop was found guilty for recklessness for shooting bullets to the wall that went into a next apartment. That I can understand. So, but here's the thing. People defend these people. Breonna Taylor, they're not telling the truth about her. She was the girlfriend of 2 drug dealers. And they had packages delivered to her house. They knew, they knew who she was. They also said she was an EMS. No, she was an EMS 3 months before. She currently at that time was not working. So that's a myth too. Now, what happened to the woman is a horrible thing. But who you hang out with in life says a lot about you. Her boyfriend, her regular boyfriend was having packages delivered to her house. And then the guy that was not friends with her boyfriend, she was with that night, cheating on her boyfriend in the house. And it was just one big scenario. And listen, it's like all out bubblegum is just said. She was on the warrant. Her name was on the warrant. It's not like they went to the door and accidentally went into somebody's house. She was on the warrant. Okay. And that's why the 2 detectives were found that they did everything legal. You got to remember when the detectives went through the door, now you're a cop, you're going to serve a warrant and you get shot in the leg. The guy starts blasting up and the reason he started shooting, he thought other drug dealers were coming to the house to rob him. So this guy is going to get away, no charges. The guy that got shot in the back in Kenosha, they dropped all his charges, even though one of the charges was sexual abuse. Okay, so I guess they figured that sexual abuse doesn't really mean anything. And then you got this other guy that got shot, the first guy that got shot, that was in jail for 12 years for child molestation. So you got all these really bad people. Now listen, this Breonna Taylor, nobody knows how bad she was, but she was no saint, and they're turning her into a saint. And here's another thing. You have, when you have these, right now, these GoFundMe pages, all these families are making tons of money off their dead children. Like George Floyd's brother has made over almost $20 million off the GoFundMe page in the name of his brother. The family of Breonna Taylor, who was under warrant, settled out of court for $12 million plus what was ever on her several million dollars on the GoFundMe pages. So you now, and then when Kyle Rittenhouse goes to get a GoFundMe page for his defense fund, no, you can't have it. But these other criminals can. And you think about it, everybody that was involved in these shootings or that were killed were in the process of committing a crime or doing something illegal. Even George Floyd was, his body was full of fentanyl, and the cop that killed him, they worked together. They had a personal beef. That cop was a creep and deserves to stay in prison where he is. There's nobody defending what happened to George Floyd. That was a horrible thing. But everybody, if a cop pulls you over, listen to him. Don't just, start fighting with them, because you just might bump into that cop that's a creep. And there are cops that are creeps. And, like I said, we all met one. All Out Bubblegum made a great point. GoFundMe needs to be shut down. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, and you know what? To swing back to that GoFundMe point, a little personal thing for everyone's who's on my channel. My mom recently donated a kidney to a friend who needed it, and she actually started a GoFundMe. You know how much money she got? Anyone can take
a couple dollars.
She got nothing. All of these criminals and these families and all these people who put up these pages, they've been getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. And my mother, who saved someone's life, this is not an exaggeration. She saved someone's life, gave a part of her body to someone else, and was out of work with no income coming in. That extra money would have been nice, and there was not a person that she got money from through this GoFundMe. She got money and help from other people that we know and some other people around here in the community. But it kind of just shows how useless this is. Like,
and on top of that, here's a great question. I heard this question today. How come all these people being shot by cops, it's happening in liberal cities? None of this has happened in any conservative cities. None.
That is a really interesting question.
Every case has happened in a liberal-run city. So basically, maybe it's liberalism doing this more than anything, because they don't let the cops act like cops. Cops are afraid to. And if you go to these black neighborhoods, 70% of black people, and they had this poll, don't want to defund the police. They want the police to be more present. So you have the thugs, sure, they want the police not to be in the neighborhoods. And like in Minnesota, they were doing that defund the police. And then the mayor of Chicago, she said, yeah, we got to defund the police department. And then when the rioters came to her house, she brought all the police to her street and started arresting people that were near her house. It's just ridiculous. BS is all it is. It's unbelievable.
We're living in a very interesting time. Like me, myself, even just thinking about the 90s and things like that, it's really crazy to see in 10 years, how different everything has changed and turned around. It seems like a breakdown, and it all starts from the liberal mindset, the Hollywood mindset, and all of that. And, right down from Me Too to all of this other nonsense that they push and they shove down our throats. But it's really starting to show how it's breaking down our society. And this catalyst and this thing with Kyle, it all comes back to them allowing, which we talked about in our last show, allowing these BLM protests to get to the point that they're at right now.
Oh well,
They allowed this.
the one that happened that's going on right now in Kentucky. So they have all these people show up, and they start harassing diners, scaring them, tipping the foods over, knocking restaurants over, destroying businesses. But then these U-Haul trucks show up, and they open up the back of the U-Haul trucks, and they're full of shields, headgear for the people that are going to riot. So these U-Hauls are literally, so someone's paying for these U-Hauls to stop right in the middle of the cities. And then you see all these white kids, not black people. You got whites running to these trucks and grabbing all these weapons and all these stuffs out of the back of the trucks. It's right in the news. And then, even Trump said, well, where the hell are these trucks coming from? Everybody knows George Soros is behind this. And he's not allowed in like 10 countries. He's barred from the countries because of what he's doing to the world. He's like the devil, and
Yeah.
and you got to watch what you say, because one person mentioned George Soros here, and YouTube shut him down, and then they called back and they fought YouTube, and YouTube opened because the guy mentioned George Soros. See, and that's another thing. So you got these big tech places that are involved defending these people. And
Oh,
and then
don't
you
even
got,
get me started about YouTube. I've got so many stories of them pulling stuff down, even
well, let's
just
not get into this.
entertainment wise.
Well, then you have this girl last week, pretty little redhead girl that gets arrested, and because she threw a Molotov cocktail into a police car where there were two cops who jumped out, and she blew up the car, and her family lives in a penthouse in Manhattan.
And
And
that's
this
pretty expensive.
and so what they're doing is they're going out there looking for these dreads of society, these people that are angry, these nerds, goofy looking people. I mean, just take a good look at these people, these rioters, what they look like. And I'm not talking about the blacks that are rioting. Actually, the blacks, they've suffered so much. You can understand where they're coming from. But these white kids, I can't stand them. And do you know right now, I am not they just kicked me off Facebook for 1 week. You know what I wrote? I wrote, if I was parked in a city and any of these little punks came up and started trashing my car, I'd run them over. That's what I wrote. So they kicked me off Facebook for saying that I would run them over because they're destroying my car. So how many people that bust their ass and have beautiful cars are being surrounded by these punks, and they're destroying their cars, and they're ripping their cars up, they're breaking windows, brand new cars, and these people are being innocent people being pulled out of cars and beaten up severely, and no one ever gets charged for it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. With this whole thing, we have Kyle, who's getting ready to go through this case to try and bring up murder charges, dragging his name through the mud. But I have yet, and I don't know if you've got anything, but I'm pretty sure when I say this, I have yet to see one of these violent protesters actually be charged with, destruction of property, a criminal mischief, anything.
The
I
only one
see
they
no
charged,
mention.
yes, only one got charged. The guy in Portland a couple weeks ago, they shot. He shot a Proud Boy. He murdered them basically. They showed him waiting in the garage, and he was waiting for a Trump supporter. You can hear him saying, "This guy's a Trump supporter." When he got done, he literally walked up to him and shot him twice in the chest and killed him, cold blood. The guy that he killed was a hardworking man, a good guy. And All Out Bubblegum said one thing, that it's attempted murder, that if you take your car and run somebody down. But here's what I like to ask you. If you're being surrounded by 20 people and they're smashing the windows of your cars in, are you going to stay there and let them do it? Or are you going to try to get away so you don't get killed or pulled out of the car?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about this is that uh the people that are in these situations, and it swings back around to what we're talking about with Kyle. These people that are defending themselves in these situations, or saying these statements that are realistic statements, they're being demonized and
Well,
automatically called Trump supporters or things like this. I don't care if you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're a Trump supporter, you're a liberal. If you are being attacked, we're talking on a human level, right?
and
If
All
you
Out
are just
Bubblegum,
a
hold on one second.
person.
All Out Bubblegum made a statement that the guy killed himself. He killed himself, All Out Bubblegum, because he was surrounded by FBI agents, and they were having a gunfight. So at that point when he seen that he was not going to get out alive, at least he had the balls to kill himself. The guy that
Yeah,
shot.
that guy sounded like he was already kind of not really there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like it's getting to a point where these things are forcing people to have to go to these extremes. And we talked about this before. This is not going to get any better. This is only
Oh,
going to get worse.
well, what's happening
This is
right now? Well, what's happening? I'll give you an example. Today, 4,000 Proud Boys showed up at a park in Portland. And so this group, the Proud Boys, which was just a few hundred people, they got branches all over the country now. Here in Texas, if you go online and put Proud Boys, they got areas of Proud Boys all over Texas, all over the country now. They got groups of Proud Boys. Now, Proud Boys, just so you know, then they say, "Oh, Proud Boys is racist." Proud Boys was started by a Spanish person, not
that is
so.
very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and Proud Boy is all over the world. It's groups of guys in England. It's very big in England. The guy that ran the Proud Boys in England got railroaded and went to jail for a couple months. And when he got out, the Proud Boys is getting bigger and bigger. So right now, Proud Boys probably got a couple million people now, and they're going all over the country. And that's why you see a lot of this rioting, like in Portland. Notice how the rioting stopped there. The Proud Boys are everywhere over there now. And so basically, it's not the police stopping the rioting. It's actually the Proud Boys are stopping the rioting. And I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong. I'm sure that some people that are criminals are just being part of a group to do bad things. But, these Proud Boys are getting awful big. And this is to counter to BLM. And they're much more organized than BLM. They're all organized. They're all legally carrying weapons. Like they all got guns. I mean, right now it's they've been in Seattle. Right, like I said, right here in Texas, they have them all over the state, and they're well organized. The guy that runs it, but I hate when they say that the Proud Boys is a racist group. No, it was started by a Spanish guy that runs the organization. So they don't say that. They don't get their fact. These are people that are angry about what's going on, and the law can't take it. The Proud Boys welcome in black people, white people, Spanish people. It's and women. There's lots of women in the Proud Boys, and so, but the media, they're just going to lie and lie. You can go on, like today, you can go on YouTube and you could see they were in the parks today, and YouTube was playing live videos. There was no fighting going on. They weren't. There was nothing bad going on. They were there as a group, and then they had Antifa showed up, and they were chanting at each other. But Antifa didn't attack them. I
I
wonder
mean,
why.
this is a really interesting situation because I'm just saying historically, if you were to look back, when you have splintering, when you have one group on one end and you have the other group on the other end, eventually, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, two opposing sides, something happens and there's a clash. And with the way that things are going, with the way these things are ramping up. And I'm even going to predict by the time we get to the elections, I just have a feeling something is going to happen. Something is going to spark where we're going to have a really bad thing go down at some point somewhere. And I'm really hoping that before that happens, as All Out Bubblegum has been saying throughout the night, and Stone Cold Jeremy and everyone else, is that we need to have, our Congress people, elected officials, do their damn job and stop it before you
Useless. Don't
have
Congress. Congress is a joke. They're just a joke. They're pathetic. They're not doing anything for nobody. These politicians aren't doing anything for nobody. And the reason they hate Trump is because Trump's an outsider. That's basically what it is. And he cost them a lot of money by having his battle with China. I mean, they're you know what it is? It's like it was described. Whether you like Trump or not, but what he did when he came along is he tore off the cover and he showed everybody how politicians really are. They're evil, vicious, vindictive people. Nancy Pelosi, Lindsey Graham, it doesn't matter whether they're Democrats or whether they're evil. And they're horrible people, right? They happen, like Nancy Pelosi right now could pass a stimulus bill, and but she refuses to do so. She just refuses to pass it. They put one before her 2 days ago, and she says, I'm not passing that. And this is the one where they extend unemployment insurance and send out more stimulus money, which actually does help the economy because it goes back into the economy. So people say, oh, it's taking money out of our government. No, it's not. It's going back into our government. And with taxes and stuff, it's like a loan, and their government gets back more off that money than they gave out.
And, it's like people don't figure basic economics, which is when people have money, they're going to spend money, whether it's on things they need, things they don't need. When you give people money, the simple truth is they're going to spend it. And, when you're not getting any money, people don't have money to spend. And that's where you get your economic declines. And I find it so fascinating that, these guys are so tight with their money, but they don't realize if they put it back in, you're going to have a country, a society, a group of people who are going to want to spend that money and thus stimulate the economy. And, we're getting close to the time where I start wrapping things up. So there is something I wanted to bring up for everybody who was interested. I want to give a little update on the virus that shall not be named because videos are being pulled down for even just mentioning it. But I'll just call it the zombie apocalypse because, I like zombie apocalypse movies. Anyways, the apocalypse of 2020 here in Wisconsin, fun fact for everyone who didn't know, our governor is a piece of shit who hopefully will get out of here one day.
His name is Evers. He won the last election by stealing it. Yes,
he stole that election. Maybe I'll do a show on him, but anyways, he has opted to extend the policy for wearing a mask until November 21st. Now, I know I've gotten a lot of feedback about this and a lot of people with the health concerns and things like that, and that's all well and fine. But there's an interesting thing that I thought I'd bring up on the show tonight that a lot of business owners, and I've talked to them personally in my town and in the different shops, they are now fighting against our mayor and saying that they do not want this. If you choose to wear a mask, you can. If you don't, they're not going to enforce this. And I find that very interesting because now you have the business owners who don't want to force this. And it's not the Walmarts, the Targets, things like that. It's the smaller business owners. And I thought maybe you could give me an insight into why you think the larger companies are pushing for this, where the smaller businesses, they don't want these extensions, these rules and regulations.
Yes,
Why do you think that is?
All out bubblegum. Great point. Today in London, they had tens of thousands of people show up, and they're fighting against the wearing masks. There was a mass protest. It was not a violent protest either. It was good people protesting, a regular protest, a real protest. So if you want to see a real protest, go to YouTube and pull up the protests that they had today in England. The people there are getting tired of the mask, and they're all in the streets, and they're saying no more. I live here in Texas. In Texas, I live in an area, the town's 3,000 people. The county's probably like 80,000. We've had hardly no cases. In the town I live in, we've had none. And nobody wears a mask. But if I go 20 miles to Amarillo, you can't go into a store without a mask. They got people on TV being arrested. I seen this woman the other day at a football game. They tased her and they dragged her out because she was not wearing a mask. It was one of the most horrible things I ever seen. And you know what really sucked about the whole thing? There were like 20, 30 guys sitting in the stands behind her, and not one of them got up to help her when these cops were tasing her. And they weren't even fucking cops. They were security guards that waited for the cops to come in. It was some fat security guard that was bending over her and sweating and looked all nasty. And it was horrible. And so, and you know, one thing, and All Out Bubblegum could tell you this because they're from Dallas. One thing I love about Texas, in Texas here, it's not like the rest of the country. You know, it's a lot different here. You know, we have a good governor, and they're opening up the state now. Florida, DeSantis in Florida, he's opening up the states because people are what's that?
What was that?
Where are you from, Curtis?
He is in New York.
Curtis, are you from? Where's Curtis from?
New York.
Oh, California. Curtis knows California's horrible. So, okay, so, and it's the states. It's, you know, let's face it, it's the liberal states. They're really bad. But what it really is it's this mask thing's all about the election and corporations. Corporations are trying to destroy the little businesses, and that's what they're doing. Like Walmart, I used to defend Walmart. I used to love Walmart. I will not shop at Walmart ever again. I will never give Walmart another dime of mine because Walmart is like this. They become this big evil beast, and I would not give them my money. I refuse to give them my money.
You know, personally, and people who have been on my channel for a while now, they know about me doing martial arts and instructing, and our business got destroyed from this. Yep. You know, shutting down for a business that depends on getting contacts and going and hosting events. When we weren't able to do that, you know, we weren't able to get new people. The people that we got were too afraid to bring their kids in because they didn't want to have a bunch of kids around in one area. And I'm not the only business that has gone through this too. You got daycare, independent people who run daycare centers and things like that. There's a lot of places that provide services for a good amount of money or a good fee. You know, it's not too unreasonable. And all of these businesses are getting hit because of the fact that these restrictions are tying their hands. Where I work right now is I work for a factory, and I'm literally there for 10 hours a day with a mask on. Do you guys know how hot and sweaty you get and you have a mask on your face for 10 hours a day? It is absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, it's gotten to a point where our supervisors will let us put the mask down for a little bit until like one of the major bosses come in.
I like to ask Curtis a question, Lee.
Sure.
Curtis, you're out in California. Do you see a lot of people that voted liberal voters that are going to vote the other way because of this whole thing going on out there? I mean, basically, do you see liberals that are really upset? Because what I see on the internet is a lot of liberals that are changing parties and leaving the Democratic Party. Tim Pool, who has one of the biggest stations going, used to be a liberal, big liberal a year and a half ago. Now he's supporting Trump, and he's like furious about all this stuff. And his station's really taken off. I don't, all you got to do is look up Tim Pool. But what I like to ask you, Curtis, being that you're out in California, do you see people switching parties because of this? And we'll talk. Well, if he, hopefully, he heard that question.
Yeah. They'll get back. There's a little bit of a delay in my in pulling up the comments, but yeah, I mean, this is getting to a point where like all this stuff is adding to the general frustration of people in general. Okay, when we add up, it's not just BLM and just Corona and everything else, but it's like this perfect storm of it started with media suppressing information of any kind, and then you've got the stuff coming out about politicians and the nonsense that's going on, and then you've got this police stuff, and then you got Corona, and when you put it all together, you've got this perfect storm of no plain way to say this, but perfect storm of bullshit that's going down that is making people get antsy. It's aggravating, and it's hindering everyday life. And it's going to come to a point where enough's going to be enough, and we're going to have a
That's what's
major
happening.
serious
That's what
issue.
happened. That's what's happening in England now. And you see, what I think is going to happen come November. I think that all these polls that are not real. They're going to be really surprised when all these elections that they think that Biden's going to win and all that. And when the election results come in, they're going to say, "What? Are you kidding me?" And they're going to say, and then they're going to try to say that Trump's cheating. And but already they're taking these. They just found some votes out in Pennsylvania that were thrown in the garbage can, and they all had Trump's name on them. So they're throwing away his votes already. So these people, these liberals, are some. They're just diabolical. There's no way to describe them. They're literally trying to destroy the country to get rid of one person out of the White House, and that's scary what they're willing to do. I mean, and it's horrible. And then you have all these big tech companies like Google, Facebook, all these companies that are going along with them. And then we were even talking about when Trump says they're getting close to having a cure for COVID. People are like, "Oh, but it's not going to work because you're just trying to do it." And I'm thinking to myself, they're acting like Trump has the jacket on. He's in the science lab, and he's this evil guy making some bad vaccine when it's not. He doesn't know. He has nothing to do with that. And
Yeah.
when you have a country actually hoping that we don't have a vaccine, and then you're going to have a country that we don't even know what the real story is on this COVID. You know, so and they're saying like if you are on Social Security and if you don't take the COVID shot, you have to have evidence that they'll stop your Social Security. So they're basically saying that when these stuff comes out, that a lot of people aren't going to want to take it, but if you don't want to take it, they're going to take stuff away from you. That's
Oh
even
yeah,
worse.
and we were talking about this earlier. I know jobs are going to mandate it and stuff like that. They're already talking about it where I work with the updates coming up. So I mean, it's going to be we're in for some very interesting, more than likely turbulent times. And it's about that time for me to start winding stuff down because these 10-hour shifts are killing me. Um, and thank you everybody who's been on. I appreciate the back and forth. Curtis, all out of bubble gum, fights the
Yeah,
zombies.
Curtis and All Out of Upcome, you were very. We really appreciate how much you were part of the show tonight, and thank you.
And also we have Lemon Pie. Thank you, Stone Cold Jeremy, who had a couple of good comments. Thank you. Appreciate all you guys who actually watch me live and listen to me talk. I know a lot of you guys are on my late night talks too. I've been kind of up and down. I promise you, once my work schedule gets a little bit more normal, then I'll have a normal streaming schedule. I've been quite busy. Anyone who does inventory knows it's the seventh circle of hell. So that's where I'm currently at right now. And sometime in October, I'll get back to having a normal set schedule. But we're gonna bring these newscasts and look out for the elections. We were talking about it. I was thinking about it. We're probably gonna do a stream here with myself and Big Lee and PB, and we're going to be there
Election
live.
night.
Yep,
On
we'll be
election
there
night.
live for the elections.
And
So
and the funny thing, and also on Tuesday, which should be very entertaining, the first debate of the election. Here's the big question: does Joe Biden show up to debate? Now there's 3 days left. Joe Biden, so all of a sudden he's disappeared, and they say that he's preparing for the debate. And Trump's doing all these rallies, and they said to Trump, "Why aren't you debating? And why aren't you prepping for the debates?" He goes, "Well, I'm doing my rallies. That's me prepping." So you got one guy hiding, and then you got the other guy out doing rallies. So it's going to be quite interesting what happens. I mean, that on Tuesday night, it might be the highest watched debate in the history of debates because everybody's wondering which Joe Biden's going to show up. Is he going to be able to stand on stage and hang, or is he going to be like the dementia guy they're saying he is? So everybody's going to be glued to the TV Tuesday night. I know I'm going to be. I'm looking really forward to it.
speaking of which, I'm erring on the side that he's just not going to know where the hell he is. So, anyways, we're gonna talk about that one because I'm gonna watch that on Tuesday too. We'll do a whole stream on it and kind of give our thoughts. I'm already
And
know who I think is gonna win, but we'll
well,
see how it goes. Maybe old
well,
Joe has some tricks.
the guy that's going to be asking the questions on Tuesday night is Chris Wallace. He hates Trump, but one thing about Chris Wallace, he's tough. So he's going to be fair. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens on Tuesday night.
So
Oh,
everybody
look,
definitely.
here's what All Out of Bubblegum said. Biden's already signaling he's got corona. That'll be his excuse. You know what, All Out? You know, a lot of people are saying that at the last second he'll come out and say he has corona.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
I wouldn't be surprised. I just, you know, so I'm not going to be surprised if something comes up where he pulls out of the debate. Nancy Pelosi came out yesterday and a couple days before that and said, well, Joe Biden shouldn't debate Trump because Trump lies. What the hell does that have to do with a fucking debate?
You know, any shot that Pelosi can take, she takes. That woman is crazy. We did that stream on her. She's like
We did
she's
a
a
couple
whole
on her.
nother. She that was a whole dedicated program. She has just so that is one interesting lady. But anyways, thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate having you all here. If you like this, share, please. Share, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever you got. Share us on there. Go to my page and look me up. I post when I'm going to go live. And tomorrow, I am going to do a review with Stevie J Reviews. So definitely check that out. We have no clue what movie we're doing. Australia is on a hardcore lockdown, so my friend down under is going to sneak down into his basement and try to get a signal out. We'll see
Well,
how that goes.
well, if he sneaks into his basement, he might bump into Joe Biden down there. He better be careful.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Can you imagine Joe Biden's probably in a dark basement sitting on a chair? All the lights are out, and he has no idea where he is.
Anyway, thank you all for watching. I appreciate having you guys on. Bigley, thank you for coming on. And you'll have a good night. We'll see you next week. And, take care of each other.